I'm Dr. Leigh Wilson, and I am Public Engagement Coordinator at the Centre for Developmental Neurobiology and the MRC Centre for Neurodevelopmental Disorders at King's College London. And I also have another role in developing and delivering undergraduate bioscience courses, especially in communicating science and in looking at ways that we can use creative approaches to teach bioscience-based degrees and courses on bioscience-based degrees. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about each of those roles, as well as my journey to this point, and what I like about my jobs, and also maybe what are some of the challenges. So I think I'll start with the public engagement, and essentially public engagement is a platform which, and I help researchers on that platform to reach out to audiences and engage with audiences about their research. And this involves different approaches, but quite often will involve projects that researchers devise and that they put into programs and reach out to non-expert audiences. That interaction is a two-way interaction, ideally, and those audiences in turn feedback to researchers and engage in conversations that that researchers learn from as well. So both sides of the interaction are getting something from that and learning things and being involved in this engagement. So it's a really fun job. I get to interact with several different research laboratories and researchers across a really broad range of neuroscience, and as well as various different audiences, which is how I come to be here talking, making my video for Devnero Academy. And that is one of our flagship outreach programs, as you all know, because you're on it. So I really, hope you're enjoying it. It's a way of sharing what we do and of learning from different people, what they expect, what their thoughts are, what their feelings are on the research that goes on, and also to gather ideas about what people would like to see research. This is important because much of the research that goes on at the MRC and in the CDN is funded by the public. So this is a really important set of interactions to be engaging in. So that's one part of my job. And the second part of my job is developing undergraduate degrees and teaching on those degrees. One of the modules I do is communicating science, where we explore different ways of communicating science and the importance of it, as well as the philosophy behind what communicating science actually is and how it looks. We try to give our students some practical experience of doing this, as well as teaching the skills that are useful in this field. And I also get involved with artists and creative approaches to bioscience education, which may not seem like a very natural fit to you, maybe at the moment, but maybe by the end of this week, you'll get some feeling for how creative approaches can really enhance and help us with our research in science and learning about science. So they're my two jobs that I do, that I love. And just to say a little bit about how I got here to this position. So my education, I came from a fairly modest background where I went to Thomas Bennett Community College in Crawley, Newtown, and I was one of very few students that went on to university to study biological sciences at the University of Edinburgh. And I was first generation from both of my sides of my parents and family to go to university. And so I was trailblazing in a way. And I really enjoyed my 4-year degree at Edinburgh. studying biological sciences, and I ended up specialising for a year of that time in developmental neurobiology. In developmental biology. And from there, after finishing my degree, which I really enjoyed, I decided to take a year out and use that year to get some experience teaching in schools as a learning support assistant, and also went travelling around the world to Southeast Asia and to India and Nepal and to Australia and New Zealand. And when I came back, I started a PhD. Yeah, that's a doctorate. So that was a 3-year course of study, which delved even further into the field that I was interested in, which is developmental biology. So I specialised in developmental neurobiology, which you will have learnt about this week, and looked at the development of the spinal cord and the role of vitamin A in how your spinal cord develops and how it interacts with the genetic components of retinoic acid, which is the biologically active component of vitamin A. So following that, I really enjoyed several years of postdoctoral research in the lab, looking at cerebellum development in the lab of Richard Wingate. And during that time, I was really fortunate to incorporate a travelling fellowship to New York, which I really enjoyed, in the laboratory of Professor Mary Beth Hatton. And during all this time, I really enjoyed doing outreach in schools and other public engagement projects. And so at the end of this time, I felt like maybe I wanted to concentrate a little bit more on the outreach side of things and the public engagement side of things. So I guess I got more and more involved in that, and in the undergraduate teaching side of things. And so the last 2 or 3 years, that's where my path has taken me. And that's what brings me here talking to you. So essentially, you know, the things I love about what I do and how I've got here, I really love working with people, and I really love neuroscience. And so I guess my jobs at the moment incorporate those 2 things. And I really enjoy working and teaching young people. And I think those things make me really fortunate to have the jobs that I am. And I also think that I've ended up here because I've kind of followed the things that I love as well. And what have been the challenges? I mean, I always like to think about this when I'm talking to people. But I guess many of the aspects of a science research career can be temporary along the way. So there's lots of temporary contracts when you're doing your research, and that can be a little bit tenuous. And yeah, I think that's been the hardest thing. It's been very flexible in other ways for me, so that's been a real bonus. And I think if I was going to give you some advice, it would be, you know, try and do things that you love, because that makes everything so much easier. And if that happens to be things that you're good at as well, then that's fantastic. If you can incorporate that with things that you can get paid to do, that's always a bonus. And to perhaps think about, you know, what the world needs, where the world is going. And on the back of the last year or 2 years, that's a really interesting question to kind of keep in your mind. So if you can bring all of those 4 things together and just take opportunities, which I know that all of you do, and that's what brings you here to be listening to this. Anyway, I hope some of that was useful for you, and I look forward to hearing a little bit about your journeys in our Devnero Academy week. And thank you for listening. Okay, bye.